It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. On July 14, 2022, 26-year-old Maya Brooks and her boyfriend, 28-year-old Casey Wyatt, boarded a flight from Seattle to Anchorage, Alaska. Both were avid hikers, thrill-seekers with matching backpacks, GoPros, and a shared Instagram account called Wild Wyatts. For years, they had talked about hiking the Denali Wilderness together. Now, it was finally happening. Casey had proposed just 3 weeks earlier, on a mountaintop in Oregon. The ring sparkled in the photos. Friends described them as inseparable, devoted, practically glowing in their final posts. One picture showed them standing arm in arm beside a trailhead sign, entering Denali National Park. Neither of them would ever leave it. The plan was a 10-day backpacking route through the backcountry, off the main trails. Maya had plotted it out using satellite maps. Casey brought bear spray, a flare gun, and a rented emergency GPS beacon. They were prepared. They texted Maya's sister from the lodge the night before, saying, "We'll check in 3 days when we get reception again. If not, don't worry. Love you." That would be the last message anyone ever received. When the couple failed to check in after 5 days, Maya's sister grew concerned. By day 7, she called the ranger station. Helicopters were dispatched. Rangers combed the area where the couple was last seen. But there was no sign of them. No tent. No campsite. No gear. Just endless pine, ridges, and snow. Casey and Maya had vanished. On day 12 of the search, a ranger spotted what looked like boot prints in a muddy slope, half washed away. They led toward an unmarked trail. But by the time searchers followed the direction, a storm hit, covering everything in sleet. The tracks were gone. If the couple had been there, they were ghosts now. Investigators scoured their online life. Maya's last Instagram story had been a panoramic view of jagged cliffs and sunlit snow. The GPS beacon had never been activated. Casey's last credit card charge was for dehydrated hiking meals. There was no indication of foul play. Just two experienced hikers in love, swallowed by the wild. Locals had their theories. Bears. An accident. Falling into a crevasse. But one old ranger named Albee told investigators, that part of the park, it's bad land. Things disappear out there. He wouldn't elaborate. On a gray April morning in 2023, a ranger named Theo Callahan was out mapping early thaw paths along a remote ridge known as Raven's Spine. It was misty, half-frozen, and quiet. Until he spotted something in the brush. A tattered blue fabric. He stepped closer. It was a backpack. Sun-bleached. Shredded. Inside, a phone, water purifier, and Maya's ID. Following a faint game trail, Theo came to a clearing. It took him a moment to register what he was looking at. Beneath a collapsed spruce were bones, partial, scattered. And something else. The remains of a tent, half-slumped, with claw marks slashing the side. Next to it, another boot, upright, with a sock still inside. He radioed for backup. Forensics were on the scene by nightfall. Maya's DNA confirmed she was one of the remains. Casey's was not. A radius bone found nearby was human, but not a match. And strangest of all, the claw marks on the tent were inconsistent with bear attacks, too small, too wide apart. They found Maya's phone, water-damaged but partially salvageable. The last video on Maya's phone was shaky, taken in near dark. Maya was whispering, "We're not alone out here." The lens turned to the trees. The light from her flashlight caught a flash of something, pale, quick, vaguely humanoid. Then, a sound, not quite an animal. Not quite human either. Then static. 2 weeks after Maya's remains were recovered, another ranger discovered something chilling. In a nearby ravine, tangled in brush, was a torn fleece jacket. Inside the pocket, Casey's wallet and a slip of paper. A scrawled message read, "It watches at night. Don't follow the whistling." Further downstream, an archaeological team found something worse, a pile of bones, some burned, some split. Mixed within them, human, deer, small mammals. One jawbone matched Casey. But the way the bones had been arranged, that wasn't natural. A cartographer analyzing the area noted something bizarre. The location where Maya and Casey were found wasn't on standard topographical maps. It was a dead zone, an area with oddly low GPS reception, and strangely, not even visible on some satellite views. When media coverage broke, a woman named Eliza Karp from Fairbanks contacted authorities. She said her grandfather had gone missing in that same ridge in 1974. His tent and journal were found the next year. The last entry read, "There's something in the trees. It doesn't leave tracks. It sings like a child." A wildlife audio researcher had been setting up sound traps to study moose calls during the winter. Reviewing his recordings from the Raven Spine region, he found something odd. A high-pitched whistling that turned into what sounded like a child's scream, cut off sharply. It happened at 3:12 a.m. The date, the same night Maya and Casey likely died. Maya's GoPro footage was mostly scenic. But one sequence showed them setting up camp while something, a shape, stood far in the background, between trees. Not moving. Just watching. It was only visible for 3 frames. A voicemail recovered from Maya's cloud backup was from Casey. Timestamped 2 nights after their last known location. He was whispering, frantic, "Maya's gone. I saw it. It took her. I'm hiding under the roots. Please. Please don't come." The Tanana and Athabascan peoples have ancient stories about beings in the mountains, tricksters, forest dwellers who mimic voices and lure travelers. One word kept appearing, Nakani, the Wanderer. A month later, Theo Callahan, the ranger who discovered Maya, was found dead in his cabin. He had written a note that read, "It knows I saw it. It whispers my name." His body showed no signs of trauma. But his eyes had hemorrhaged, as if from terror. The park quietly restricted access to Raven Spine, citing weather instability. But hikers noticed motion sensors and unmarked black trail cams suddenly appearing in the area. Maya's younger brother, Jesse Brooks, began his own investigation. He camped near the site and recorded audio overnight. The next morning, his tent was shredded. Jesse was gone. Only his boots remained, turned neatly to face the trees. A month later, a tourist fishing miles downstream found a memory card stuck in driftwood. It contained one video, Jessie, shaking, eyes darting, whispering, "It wears her face. But it's not her. It smiled at me." Cold case detective Lena Morse, recently transferred from Anchorage, started noticing troubling patterns. 14 cases since 1961, all young hikers, all within 10 square miles of Raven Spine. All vanished without a trace. Most never found. A few found with eerie similarities, claw marks, missing eyes, or frozen in positions of terror. Lena visited the park's oldest storage facility and found an original topographical chart from 1952. Scribbled in the margin were words, "Do not cross here, unnatural terrain, 7 lost in 49. A boundary was outlined in red, a section now known as Raven Spine. An anonymous source led Lena to a decommissioned listening post once used during the Cold War. Buried under the hills, its purpose was never officially recorded. The access tunnel was sealed. The entrance was covered by avalanche debris. But radiation levels near it were abnormally high. Trailcam footage pulled by a curious blogger showed a white SUV entering the restricted zone. The plate traced back to a U.S. Forestry Services vehicle. But the badge number didn't exist. The man driving it, tall, bald, black parka, was never identified. 2 amateur hikers reported encountering a barefoot woman in a nightgown, shivering, deep in the brush. She whispered, "Don't follow the voices." When rangers returned to search the area, no sign of her. But a nightgown was found hanging in the trees, torn, stained with blood. A collector of old mountaineering gear came forward with a journal he found in a vintage pack. The pages belonged to Stanley Vetch, who vanished in 1982. His final pages descended into madness. There are many. Not one. They move like fog. They pretend to be people. Detective Lena Morse's office filled with maps, strings, and timelines. She barely slept. Her husband left. She recorded audio logs, one entry saying, "I think it mimics grief. I think it wants you to mourn." When Lena filed a FOIA request for documents about disappearances in Denali, it was denied. No explanation. Later that week, her email was wiped. Her badge access to several folders revoked. Multiple campers reported strange lights moving silently above Raven's spine, triangular, pulsing white-blue. On the same night, static fried every park radio. A helicopter went down. The official report, bird strike. An unmarked SD card was found embedded inside Maya's GoPro case. It held audio files. Casey's voice. Ragged, starving, rambling about something with no face. It sounds like her. But it's not her. I made it to the cave. I don't think it can follow here. Lena and two park officers hiked to where Casey described. They found a cave mouth, unnaturally smooth, dry despite snowmelt. Inside, scorched walls. Charred handprints. Bones. Deep in the chamber, a pile of teeth, too many to count. Lena returned alone. Her body camera recorded 12 minutes of static, then her screaming. She stumbled from the woods 3 hours later, incoherent, bleeding from her ears. She spoke only one sentence: "It wears the ones you love." Privately, park staff were told to evacuate the north boundary under a hazard mitigation protocol. Unmarked black vans arrived. Satellite imagery of Raven's spine was blurred out across most platforms within days. A spring storm dropped strange red snow across the range. Tests showed trace amounts of hemoglobin and something else, an unidentifiable protein chain. Lena was found in her car, parked facing the woods. Her eyes were open, but she was gone, catatonic. In her lap, a torn notebook. The last page read, "It remembers everyone." A final voice memo from Jesse was decrypted. In the background, two voices, Maya's and Casey's, but wrong. Repeating Jesse's name over and over. A third voice whispering beneath, "You came too far." With pressure mounting, a federal cold case task force reopened 18 cases tied to the area. Files had been sealed for decades. One report described shared psychosis, but several rangers' deaths were redacted under national security. A drone flown illegally over Raven's spine caught something unthermal, bipedal, tall, moving at impossible speed through trees. When the footage was posted online, it was removed within an hour. The poster's account disappeared. A group of 6 hikers went missing for 72 hours. When they emerged, they were barefoot, emaciated, eyes glazed. They could not explain where they had been. One said, "We were inside it." At an outcrop near the ridge, hikers found words etched in granite with no tool marks: "Feed it memory. Do not look back." Chapter 43, The Survivor's Interview. One woman who fled the area in 1996 after losing her brother was finally interviewed. She said, "He followed a song. I saw him walk right into the trees and vanish. Then it sang my voice back to me." Lab samples from the cave showed cells that divided unnaturally. Structures that looked like brain tissue but were plant-based. Something alive. Something old. An old ranger map was discovered in a sealed locker. It showed a trail called Black Hollow Loop. Long erased from modern charts. Written in faded pen, closed after incident 1956. A ham radio operator received a transmission during a solar storm. Cracked, distorted, but a voice repeated, "Wyatt. Maya. Raven. Spine. It follows. It never dies." Then a child's laughter. Witnesses spotted unmarked helicopters dropping devices into the forest. A sound like thunder followed. Days later, everything in a 2-mile radius of the ridge was charred. Black. No fire reported. Lena's files referred to a term from park legends, Hollow Ones. Entities that absorb memory, mimic identity, and lure the grieving. No known origin. No way to destroy. All that remains of Maya and Casey, A half-melted ring. A voice on a recorder. A shadow on a frame. The story has become legend. But families still report whispers in the trees. And sometimes, faces. Denali Park remains open, but not Raven's Spine. It's absent from maps, now listed as a controlled research zone. But hikers say at night, you can still hear something calling. A voice that sounds like someone you loved. And if you answer, you never come back.